Hey there, welcome to saas.unbound podcast. I'm your host, I'm Nadeina, head of growth at saas.group, serial acquirer buying wonderful SaaS businesses to take them to the next level. And here I chat with inspiring founders and experts to get an inside scoop on how they made their business a success. And today with me is Wilma, co-founder and chief revenue officer at VLOQX, a SaaS tool for effective quote management. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Sure, anytime. So, I would love to get deeper into the story and into your journey with the tool. So,
Hmm?
can we maybe go through your background real quick, like just
Yeah,
1-2 minutes? Who's Velma, and what was the inspiration behind the product?
sure. Love to. Well, I'm from the beginning. I'm a lot into horses, traveled around show jumping, then become a personal trainer. And then a couple of years later on, I was selling SaaS. And I have no real idea what happened there because I have troubling, put on someone else's TV, but been within SaaS for like the last 15 years, being brought up there. I've been working at what I typically say in our sales meeting, system that we typically integrate with. So quite good understanding of the customer's needs. And what we saw that there are people having challenges making quite complex quotes when a next spreadsheet is employed, and we just want to do something about it. So me and my co-founders has a similar background. So for approximately 4 years ago, I was then the partner manager at GetAccept. I decided to leave my dream job and found this company instead. I've so many times questioned that decision, but I'm actually very glad of it currently. And I have a news I can share with you. I'm this new CEO of the company, so I'm just entering a new role. It's of course very exciting too.
Oh wow, congrats. All right. So, I'm really excited to hear maybe about the possible changes for you and what it means and how you're transitioning to that role because well, you tell me what's the biggest challenge or like the biggest maybe itch that bothers you when you're doing this.
Well, it's of course always challenging when entering a new role you haven't done before. I do have, for good and bad, this Pippi Longstocking attitude. I can do everything, but in this case, I will try to just continue doing what I'm doing as of to now. We're a small company. Have been the CRO, as you mentioned. Everything that is important for us is to have a good product that our customer get a lot of value with, and of course to find new customers. So that will be my number 1, 2, 3 priority. But I could see in the long run, maybe 1, 2, 3 years from now, of course, the role would be a little bit changed than would I if I were to be the CRO back then. So I know, being humble to new challenges, listen to the team, most importantly, and then try to be as close to the market as possible to really navigate in. I mean, we don't have that much competitors, but of course, everyone always have it. So try really find our blue ocean and to enter that in a good way, continuously.
Perfect. All right, good luck with that. Well, you're
Thank you.
you're
Well
still
needed.
working. You have wonderful customers. So how did you determine who your ideal customer is going to be? How did you get there?
Mm,
Because you knew the problem is there from your personal
yeah.
experience, but how did you go to your first customers?
That's an ever-going tricky question, as well as how did you decide how your web page looks like it does? And one is often just miserable with both of them. But I would say we have been trialing and error for a couple of years. What we saw in the beginning was that we approached two small companies when we did our win-loss analysis. And then we discovered, I would say maybe a year back, we decided that it was very clear that resellers are typically in need of CPQ, and that is what VLOQX does. So it stands for configure, price, quote. So if I try to tell my mom what we're doing, I would say, imagine a price calculator, but you also need a quote to it. Like, so we looked at companies selling a combination of product services, typically several markets. Typically, they've grown a bit more mature within their pricing. When it's great for us, you have someone who actually owns the pricing as a strategy. but of course, none of our companies would mention themselves and describe themselves as resellers. So to be a bit more clear, I would say IT consultancies, scale-up SaaS, those selling like solar panels, and then very sloppy of me to mention it this way, but those who sell some kind of machine. That is a great fit for us.
Okay, interesting. And it's really great that you mentioned somebody who owns pricing at the company, because we just had a couple of other episodes on the podcast just about that, about
Ooh,
sales and about pricing, and it was so
very interesting.
fascinating to see what everyone thinks about it. So, who do you
Yeah,
think should own the pricing? Like, who
yeah.
decides?
that that is like a crazy question, but it isn't, of course not. It's like a very sense question. Someone has to own it, right? And I did a poll on LinkedIn on this, and it was 1/4 for the CEO, the product manager, the CFO, or if and zero is employed, that one should own it. What I would suggest that someone do own it, that have the mandatory power, if you will, to do something about it. And it doesn't matter who it is, but someone has to have both of it, the ownership and yeah, to make changes and actually being impactful in real life. So, but it's a really tricky question, and I'm just laughing because I feel it's weird. It's so close to your business. It's very, very powerful to impact your profitability, and very often no one knows it. And when they own it, they cannot do anything about it.
Okay, all right. So in your case, for
Mhm.
for
Yeah,
VLOQX, who owns the
yeah.
pricing? Who gets to decide? Is it kind of, a team effort that then goes to a decision maker? Or,
Mm,
because we also had a podcast where the founder said, it felt right, so we did it. So,
yeah, yeah.
what's the process for you?
Yeah, I wish, thank you for asking. And I wish I could have say the answer I will give you in a couple of years. But as of now, it is a team effort. We analyze how the company's pricing is built up as of today, because that steers how much time it takes and how complex it is to configure their custom, unique, tailored solution within VLOQX, because that is what we are. We are super, super custom. And then we have actually a project ongoing to measure the profitability on our ongoing project. So I would say I own it. I've done it since the beginning as the CRO, but of course in close collaboration with the team that do deliver to understand more and more, okay, how long does it take? What's the risk? What kind of risk is involved for us and also the customer? So we have a price model that is based on the company's need, our customer company's need, and not per seat, as an example. So we see, okay, how complex is it? What kind of functions do they need? For example, integrations, and then of course users, and then they get a fixed price. We always work with fixed prices just to make it easy for the customer to take this decision, and also that IT project in general has a very bad reputation with the ongoing billing, and everyone is just miserable in the end. So it's a combination there, but it's as web page as our ICP is evolving since we're only 4 years old approximately.
Okay, yeah, I think I absolutely agree. Like the pricing, the more complex it, the more, people spend on your pricing page, the more kind of confused they are, the less there is a chance that they're going to commit. So I think
Yeah.
fixed price is a really, really
If I
good.
could add one thing to the pricing part, I would really recommend people to do the analysis with the data you have on a regular basis. To like, okay, but it's super tricky for us. We quote here, we build there. It's like tricky. Yeah, I know it's tricky, but just take the data you have and do analysis on a quarterly basis. Then you get really, really far on low-hanging fruits, or you can see, wow, we're way off on that market, or wow, we could charge a lot here because no one talks about this. So do it on a quarterly basis with the data you have, and you have a lot more information and well-based decision that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Okay, thank you. So, just based on what you just said, you mentioned that you're very custom for every other company you're working with. So, does it mean that you also offer a certain service level on top of your product, or does it just refer to the pricing and like what is actually required for the company to implement the tool?
A very interesting question. Trial and error. We have tried that since this fall, and typically the bigger customers ours like it a lot because we have the data on how much extra support, because we include support on the tool. But if you want to rearrange your house, you do not just want to paint a room, you want to do something bigger, you want to like rebuild the garage or something, then we send a new quote on that, and once again always on fixed price. But we have seen also in average how much do our customer that used our tool for like 2 years, what do they buy from us? And then we instead try to, I mean, be proactive and say, hi guys, you probably want to do this on a regular basis, you can have it on a bit kind of discount and you can have it on a fixed price instead. So I would say people like this. I mean, they like being guided, they like having a supplier or a partner, whatever you want to call it, that are proactive. So I would really recommend that, and I think it's a great question of you to ask it, because maybe other people also see the potential in this to help their customer more proactively.
All right. And what, like, at the end of the day, what is the problem that VLOQX is solving? So basically, it is changing the sales process, right? It's making it easier
Yeah.
to get the quotes. So is it because basically it's two problems, right? That you maybe going after. It's the time, saving the time or saving the money for the company at the end of the day. So as far as I can see it for now, is you're definitely saving the time. So you don't have to spend so much time with your Excel sheets. Oh my God, Excel sheets have ruined so many lives and also
I
created
know.
so many amazing products, right?
True. True.
So, what is it? What is the main problem that you're solving for your customers?
Yeah, good question, and very interesting to hear your analyze about the problem we're solving and the benefits people get from it. And I would say that's most important in this kind of economic environment we are in right now. I would say to eliminate risk. That is the main problem people want to solve. That you want to risk eliminate, you want to take control over the pricing, you want to take control over your discounting. People typically believe that discounting is doing in the rude way you are put up in the management team, like this is how we discount, but is it really? And you don't have the data on it, so you can't do the analysis, you just have to trust in people. And I love trust, don't get me wrong here, but when you have a sales team with like 20, 30, 40, 50 and above sales rep discounting, or by all means quoting on different markets, it's really tricky to have control over that. So I would say first and foremost, the risk that leads to, of course, control over your profitability. What I would say historically was the thing that our customer valued the most was the time saved. But typically, when we are in dialogues with new customers, people don't like. I shouldn't say that they don't care about it, but you don't buy a CPQ because you save time today. But all of our customers gain a lot of free time with our services. So typically, we have also seen, of course, but depending on what kind of vertical or industry we're talking with, what kind of persona we're talking with. But if I would say something that make the change for us, that the customer decide upon implementing a CPQ tool, then it comes back to risk elimination and try to steer the company to profitability in a more controlled way.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks. So, and you guys are also sales led. Well, I went to the website and I couldn't really find a way to try the product. So I guess you're just proactively doing the outbound. So how does it work for you? Why did you decide that this is going to be the only way? You're not really showing people the way in without hand holding them? And is
Mm.
there a plan for you to maybe add it in the near future?
Okay, so sales led, yes. Well, Our webpage is super poor to begin with. We would love to have a lot of more product marketing within it, but no, it wouldn't be a PLG strategy, because since it's the customized way, it would be to be very honest and transparent. Our product isn't good enough to be product led yet. It's not that easy to configure. So there you go, all the people working at DealHub, now you know, because it's our biggest competitor globally. But I would also say that even though it maybe sounds crazy, our customers like when we can give them this, I don't know, guidance. Like, this is how you do your pricing as of today. This is how you discount. This is how your quote looks like. We have a VLOQX best practice that we can apply. Would you like us to do the analysis of your pricing, to understand how it's easiest for the sales rep to just follow the ruling that you have decided upon in the management team, to get a really nice looking quote that actually will help you say yes with the customer in your end. And then people, I mean, they say yes because they love that we have this approach. So of course it would be great if we could have a PLG-led growth in one sense, but what we actually have done and what we see is a big difference from us just from when we started the company as of today, and why we're making the CEO change as well, is because my previous role was at GetAccept. I was the partnership manager globally, and gain a lot of interesting insights of why you should work with partners. So I would say that our main part of our ARR comes from the partner channel that we have. And what we do is that we connect with the CRMs, and then we ensure we are being in their marketplaces or where to be found from their customers. And we actually have seen leads from all over the world. And that is also how we have entered a more global market, because we have incoming, what we call them PQLs, so partner qualified leads from Australia to Puerto Rico to a US, from Japan, etc., etc. So yes, we do outbound, but we get so frustrated when someone through HubSpot Marketplace, hi, I'm looking for a CPQ connected to HubSpot. And we're like, why are we doing outbound? People elsewhere know what CPQ is. And we're like, hello, do you use spreadsheets to try to calculate quotes? You do? Oh, wow. Do you know it's a risk with that? Etc. So it's a combination.
Okay. All right, I see. I see. So, I'm glad that you mentioned, partnerships and going global, because for for some companies, it's I can see that it's a little bit easier to start with their own market, just to
Mm,
to validate the idea. But then going global for SaaS is kind of a natural route. So,
mm.
how was it for you? Were there any challenges that you've encountered, and what was your strategy for going after global companies from the get-go?
I would say what wasn't a struggle, to be honest. It's an hassle, everyday hassle, really. I met an old colleague and now a friend at GetAccept. I visit them for a week or so from now, and she said, "Yeah, I can imagine like running your own business to have one great crisis a week." I was like, "A bad day is one in an hour," and we laughed, of course. But I would say. We have been aiming to go with the partnership from the beginning. But since we are bootstrapped, we have limited resources. I mean, everyone has limited resources, of course, but it's even more limited when you are bootstrapped. So what we would have needed is more into our product earlier, to being able to make this great integrations to the CRM even earlier. So for example, we are not in Salesforce App Exchange yet, but of course we will be there in the future. We have a Salesforce integration. It works great, but we're not reachable through the App Exchange. And since we have this partner as a strategy, it's very important for us to be in those chosen marketplaces. And the ones we are in now is a couple of the Nordic CRMs and also the HubSpot ones. So that would, I would say, one hassle. And then when it comes to the outbound, I mean, gosh, I could talk for hours of all the hassles we did. And just to give you an example, last spring, when everything, at least for our sense, changed, I think how was it? We had a 72% higher activity level, and we reached a 50% lower results by that. And we were like, what are we doing wrong? But we gained a lot of insight that helped us a lot in our ICP work, who we should talk with, in what kind of company sizes, etc., etc., etc. So now I feel the trickiest part is with having a global global PQL request, is it super tricky to sell on different cultures, different markets. How you don't have that, how do you say, fingertip sense? Can you say that in English, or is it a Swinglish expression maybe?
Yeah, you
Through-
don't have it
through-
on your fingertips. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So you don't really now know how it works, And
Yeah.
I would say our sales pipe is like 30-40% of international leads. Then of course it's harder for us to keep the control over the sales process because we aren't that good in how to sell in Australia or in the US yet.
Okay, interesting. And yeah, when people learn that, well, that you guys exist basically, and they're in Australia, and I would assume that since it's very, very custom, and you have to talk to every customer, and you have to uh, walk them through the onboarding and into the product, and how does it work, like even time wise? Because like, for example,
Yeah.
I'm in Vietnam, right? We are what, 6 hours away from each other, then you're 10
Mm,
hours away from
mm.
Australia. Do you outsource your onboarding somehow, or do you work crazy hours still?
Do I have to answer this question? No, no, but I would say our vision is to be the leading CPQ platform in Europe when your CRM functionality isn't enough when it comes to pricing and quoting. So that is what we will stick to. We will try to be a Europe first company, and it's of course much easier for us to help the US companies than the Australian ones. So, but when needed, as of now, we work crazy hours, yes, but of course we're looking into, I mean, my poor colleagues can't work all day round, yeah, right? So we will find solution for this as soon as we need it. So when we see, okay, we have a couple of customers here, we will just fix that. So I think we have this work from anywhere, so we don't mind taking help from elsewhere Sweden, or it doesn't matter where you live, and that is also suitable, how we run our business, so we don't have to change. And now, gosh, we are entering Australia. How should we approach that? So we will just work from anywhere and take help where needed, and they doesn't have to be Swedish people.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, a little bit about the sales process, a little more. So, because
Mm?
everyone's talking about how last year has been a little more difficult for every business out there, and especially for those that are sales led, because the sales cycles have become just so much longer. How
Mm.
has it affected you guys, or if it did, and how are
Of course
you
it did, yeah.
battling this?
Mm. Well, of course it did. And what we could see was, first of all, when we did the outbound, I mean, nothing happened. It was like silent. We could call how many people, and no one was in their buying mood. So that was, of course, something was really, really tricky for us. And we had established quite good partnership with a couple of local CRM players here in the Nordics who both launched, or all three of them actually launched CPQ in the same month, so February 2023. And what the founder said, and the ones in the management team said, it's like a CPQ light because it won't be compete with yours. And that we were all just agreed on that. But in a big company, when someone says they have something, do you believe that the sales rep, if one is really mean on the floor with bunny ears around it, was to mention us? No, of course they didn't. So we had like a huge outbound setback. We had like a huge partner setback. And then we just really quick decided upon, okay, we have to continue doing the outbound to know more about our ICP. Sooner or later, there will be changes. We had also moved up market just beforehand, so that was a little bit unfortunate, one could tell. So, I mean, the sales process was already longer, the partner setback and the outbound setback. So we decided upon, okay, we have to focus everything on HubSpot because they are global. They don't have their CPQ fully. They have a CPQ Lite and they have a quote management tool that's good, but it's very clear when we can add value. So that was a couple of things, and then we, in the sales process, we had to step up our game to talk more about I would see the business value with doing this, because it's super tricky in one sense. It involves a lot of departments, not to say all of them. Our customers in general have 2.5 integrations. It is, even though we don't want it to be, it is a bigger IT project. So we have to like, okay, how does are you doing IT projects? Are you doing investments? Really check this early on, as you should always do, but I guess we were a bit sloppy. And then, okay, when do you want to implement the CPQ? Who owns it? What kind of business case would that person? Really, really help our ambassadors internally to sell together with us. And of course, when we also moved up market in the combination with this, that would be we had been needed to do that nevertheless. So that is just a couple of ways that it affected us, and now we see where we are in a much better place. It's not even comparable where we are now from 1 year ago. So I mean, hard work pays off. You really try to adapt and analyze, and yeah, try and error to move forward.
Okay, and coming back to the fact that you're bootstrapped,
Yeah.
because I also found out about it before the podcast, like do my research, and I thought, okay, like a lot of sales-led companies and a lot of companies that are working with teams go the other way because
Mm,
it's such a huge competition, and usually
yeah.
you want to get to bigger players, so you need funding. You guys decided to go the other way. What was the kind of the thought process behind that decision?
Who was like the crazy one behind this? Well, yeah. What's tricky being bootstrapped within SaaS is that you always have this stress, taking market shares. Um, and what we can see of CPQ is that it grows approximately 15-20% yearly on a global level. The market grows that fast. So that just says that there are room for many more of us in one sense. But then also, if you could see that 83% of all sales rep in the US has a CPQ tool, and in the Nordics, me myself, I would actually dare to say I'm quite nerdy within SaaS. I had no idea there was something called CPQ for 4 years ago. So I would say that the market is very immature. So I would actually, well, guess that the market is growing much more rapidly than those numbers says, about approximately 15-20%. But that is not answering the question. But that is, the fear that you have as a co-founder of a bootstrap company. But why we are as we are is the founder, Andreas Granstedt, he founded both Upsales as a CRM company together with Daniel Wikberg, still owns it today. And so he was co-founding a couple of years, and then he sold his parts, and then he started a local ERP company for like 10-15 years ago. And his belief in entrepreneurship is very strongly connected with Bootstrapped. He was that is my expertise, as he said. And I would actually dare to admit that it's a little bit of, pride being a bootstrap company. Like, we know what we're doing. We do not know what we are doing. We're just making it sometimes a bit harder for ourselves. And then, the economic crisis came, and then it's all of a sudden it was quite wise to be bootstrapped. But I don't say that we're going to be it forever. We are just very, very keen on what we do with our money, how we invest them, to making sure resources is, it's extremely important for us what we put our money in, and we believe in the long term, to have a really great product that customers do get a lot of value with, and then going to market, as I said earlier on, with the partner strategy. So we believe to find the real product market fit for us and then scale. And then it might change how we look on this. But until that day, we want to be bootstrapped because that is how we know how to run business in one sense.
Okay, all right, interesting. So yeah,
So weird,
a couple.
weird answer,
No,
but
no,
that is the
no,
answer I
perfect.
have.
I think it's great. I mean, first of all, you're right. In the current economical situation, you're kind of wise to be bootstrapped, and then trying to scale before you find your product market fit might not be the most sustainable strategy, right? Because then you could end up just burning money and never find it, and then it's not a very favorable situation to be in. So
Mm,
um, It's exciting to
Well,
see.
I worked in both companies that is bootstrapped and that is VC backed, and I would say it nevertheless gives you much more opportunity to do
Mhm,
more errors more quickly. And then you will probably learn where you have your product market fit. So I wouldn't say, I don't think it's never bad for the company, but the
mhm.
question is what's best for the owners and the founders and how they want to run their business in the long term for them. So I would say having a VC backed or whatever equity backed company, it adds definitely one extra buyer to be happy, and also a bit more stress on the employees, but it doesn't have to be bad since you can do a lot of more errors quickly and then adapt to them. So it's just different ways of running the business, I would say.
That's true. Okay, so something I wanted to ask about, you working with other companies, because I would assume you're working with a ton of data. You access the companies that you're working with and like what they're doing. Do you see any trends there? Like what's going on with the sales? What companies are struggling with? Because again, everyone wants to know like what's next. So according to like the
Mm.
data that you're working with, is there any trends that you're seeing and regarding the sales or the pricing?
Wow, that's a very interesting question. I mean, I could talk for hours about this, I believe. But if I'll try
Go
to
ahead.
stick maybe to what's
Mhm.
closest to my heart, I would say uh, we could see that regarding pricing, it's happened a lot of things since we have the shift from growing by all means to growing in efficient, cost-efficient way, um, combined with the ever changes within SaaS, for taking one example, where you see, I mean, the SaaS business model changes all the time, and it's a lot of trends coming in. You should do the PLG, you should do the partner strategy, and so on and so on. And what we could see very closely is that you use the product data more and more in your pricing. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you have like three different modules that you sell with add-ons. It could be usage based. It could also be that you have this, as we say in Swedish, a smorgasbord where you can pick and choose whatever kind of functions that you need. But a big trend that we do see is that you use your product data, the usage-based data, to affect your pricing model, and then that they often changes very rapidly. So like we did this last quarter, and now it's something completely else. And I think it's a little bit tricky because this is just shows that the pricing asset strategy is very immature. If we compare this to the machinery dealers that we talk with, they have their machines, they have their add-ons, they have their service agreement. It's much more mature. So I think it's happening a lot of stuff here, and of course that makes it harder for the one actually employing, the pricing strategy in reality, the sales rep. Okay, my quote isn't valid anymore because now we have changed pricing model. Or how should I explain to my existing customer that they have like a 30 times old pricing model and now we're gonna upsell them? So it's a lot of happening here. And if I could, my advice would be to take it a bit step by step and think it through. Like, what do we as a company need to be competitive, to be profitable? What data do we have? Everything from how do biggest companies buy what, and what are they happy with, and what are they successful with, to look into their platform or whatever service that they actually bring to the table. What is used of this that we can provide with, and then before you change, okay, how does our current client base pricing model look like? How do most people pay us for what? And then have, a combination here. So you shouldn't be afraid of doing changes. You just have to look into all the different stakeholders, where existing customers is one of them. And you shouldn't be scared of changing existing customers' pricing model. That's not what I'm saying, but just have that in mind, because your sales rep will be super confused when it differs a lot and they don't know really how to act. Uh, and then another thing, in general, people are increasing prices combined with that they increase their discounting. And I feel that this is very you know, amusing in lack of other words, because we can see that 10% index higher prices, but then the discounting goes crazy. So have that in mind too when increasing prices. That are you going to allow the discounters? How are you going to manage that? So don't make it too complicated yourself. If you don't need a CPQ tool, don't make you buy one. Like keep it simple, keep it understandable. But when you do need some assistance for this, then make sure you have one in place. Otherwise, you can just imagine that you talked about in the beginning, the spreadsheet goes wild, as one of my customers said. And it's like, the spreadsheet is wild. We need something to take care of this. And I was not laughing. So that is something I see for
All
sure.
right. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so just a couple more questions, and I know we discussed before the podcast that you would love to share some learnings from the failures and from mistakes. So that's the usual question that everyone gets here. It's what has so far been the biggest win and the biggest failure that you could
Hmm.
share that we all can learn from and hopefully not make.
Wow. I would say the biggest win is always funnier to start with the good things, right? The biggest win is that I always have challenged myself to dare to do what's best for me, personally, for my personal development, to dare to go off after that. And I think that is the only way I know, at least for long time success, to like dare to see what I'm bad at, what I'm good at, and then let that steer together what I get passionate about, what I feel naturally engaged with, to let that steer what I'm doing in the next step. So take one example. I was a sales rep or key account or whatever you want to call it. I had a huge number of existing customers at a previous job. And I was, I wouldn't say fed up with sales, but I was really stressed. It wasn't my thing to nurture people. I'm fortunate a true hunter as a person. And then I just saw this role description. I was like, wow, they're talking about me. And it said like, we don't know what you're going to do. You're like, it's super important that you talk to everyone at the company. You're going to be, or an internal person, external person. It was just very messy. And also said, we don't know how this should be beneficial and we don't know what KPI. So it just total mess. And I was like, they are talking about me. So I applied to this role, and I called them like, hi, you have described me, you just must hire me. And I have no idea what I got those balls from to say that, but it was so right. So I really, really liked and enjoyed working at that company with that weird role. So, dare to ask yourself, what's not for me? What is for me? And then go chase it. So that maybe is a bit weird, but that I would say that is a long time, to be happy and successful. You just have to dare to ask yourself, what are you great at and what are you bad at? And don't do that. Don't go and do what you're bad at that drains you. Do the other stuff. It's okay to not be good at everything. My biggest failure, my biggest failure is when uh, I jumped off that dream job and founded VLOQX. I wasn't experienced founder, and I didn't listen to my friends that were. So I did the same mistake as they did, which is like very, very stupid. I mean, it's so stupid, it's embarrassing to talk about it here. But what I would recommend and what they told me was when you're founding a company, do it with not too many people because it's very hard. It's like to run a relationship with people you are not in love with, but you're going to raise a child. So if you're doing it with two people, or like with five people will have their fears, their um, point of views. There's a lot of there, and everyone, or everyone, but many people has relationship on their private side. So you're gonna run your business with your co-founder's wife or husband too. So it just becomes too many people. So that was the advice I got. That like limited your cap table to a few, and stick with that, and ensure that you both have, as one could say, um, you are in the game both with money and with time because it's easier to avoid owner discussion with this. So if anyone out there gonna found a company and they want to have like 1,000 things you shouldn't do, then please reach out at LinkedIn. I'm happy to help.
Okay, that's wonderful. I think it's very important to talk about this because, well, as as acquirers, we know that
Mm,
unfortunately, founder conflicts can lead to the sale of the company, and we've seen it.
Mm.
And it's sometimes it's really sad to see. Sometimes it's kind of a natural path that everyone saw coming, but
Mm.
yeah, I think it's not discussed enough. So
But it's
thanks for
like
bringing that up.
drains the people that are super important for the company with from energy. So that's why I'm highlighting it as a failure, because obviously I'm still here, and I love running VLOQX with my co-founder. So it's not that. It's just it has been very, very tricky, and you can avoid
Mm,
it by doing like
yeah.
listen to your friends that co-founds companies and people like you guys who've seen it from the other point of view. So.
Yeah. All right. And of course, the last one is going to be about a hack. So any hack
Mm-hmm.
that you can share, maybe in sales, maybe in,
Mm.
hiring, co-founder relationships, anything that was super helpful for you might not be very conventional for the others.
I will talk about two things that really, really helped me within sales. And they are probably super obvious, but I'm yet amazed that so few people I meet actually do this on a regular basis. So this is nothing new. It's just a reminder that is very important. So first of all, when you're working within sales, work very closely with someone in marketing, a friend of yours, make friends, make friends in marketing. What we could see when I was back at Upsales, the ones that did had a 50% higher results on a yearly basis when working very combined with marketing. You guys can help each other. Everyone knows this, but what it means, like put up a webinar for your industry or together with a partner, or uh, arrange a round table if it's bigger customers, just work smart, not only hard. So you have a lot of tools in your tools box where marketing is a huge of them, one of them. So work very closely and look into the ICP or the deals you're trying to close, and just collaborate. So that is the first thing. So nothing new there, but that's really, really, really helped me back in the days. And the other thing is, I've talked about it already, but gosh, if you're gonna go global, go with partners. Like have a few of them. Or everyone, but a lot of people has too many partners, and they don't say it doesn't work to work with partners. So they're just draining you. Yeah, of course, if you had, as what I had at one moment, but Salesforce was one of them, and I had 99 others, it was a bit too many, yes. But work with maximum handful, choose one or two to begin with, find your combined win-win-win, like win for the customer, win for you, the both partners. That will really, really help you succeed globally with your expansion.
That's great. Thanks for sharing those. Well, Wilma,
Yeah.
I enjoyed the conversation immensely. I mean, you've got a great story, and I love the energy and the focus on what you're doing and what you're not doing, maybe even more importantly. So thanks so much for sharing this story. I'll
Sure.
be happy to do this again sometime next
I'd love
year,
to.
see how how 2024 treats all of us, and then do a
Keep my
follow-up.
fingers crossed. I'd
Yes,
love to. And thank you
absolutely.
so much for listening.
Sure, anytime, and take care.